During my undergraduate years, I got very interested in the fact that you can use mathematics to understand the physical world.
Polkinghorne entered the field at an exciting time of rapid developments in science's understanding of particle physics.
So that when I came to do a PhD, I did it in theoretical physics, working in fact under a very distinguished Pakistani theoretical physicist, Abdus Salam, who later on won the Nobel Prize. And that led to a 25-year career working in theoretical elementary particle physics. That's to say, using mathematics to try and understand the behavior of the smallest bits of matter.
The developments in physics that Dr. Polkinghorne refers to also led to a desire in people to devise a more complete and all-encompassing theory. However, people still differ on what that would mean.
And even if you've got a complete theory of elementary particle physics, it wouldn't be a theory of everything really, even within physics. Understanding, for example, how fluids behave or understanding superconductivity would be a different area of physics. So one shouldn't get too grandiose or bombastic about elementary particle physics. It's very, very interesting, it's very important, but it isn't the whole story.
Even within the physical sciences, there are cases in which reality is irreducible. One such example is called quantum entanglement. In quantum entanglement, two electrons interact in such a way that we cannot separate them without losing some information about them.
My transition from being a professor to a priest was partly conditioned by I reached that stage in my life where I felt I'd done my bit of physics, written a much more complex and also, incidentally, a much more satisfying and fulfilling form of human activity.
Where are we? Where do we come from? And where are we going? These three fundamental questions of philosophy have occupied various civilizations throughout history and continue today. We continue to explore and have yet to come to a final conclusion. Throughout the process of our collective search, a rich variety of proposed answers have emerged from both scientific and religious spheres. Hello and welcome to Matter and Beyond. I'm Laura Wells. Today we will continue our series with Reverend Dr. Polkinghorne. He has led a life dedicated to the exploration of the relationship between science and religion. His work brought him the prestigious Templeton Prize in 2002, which recognizes significant research or discoveries related to spiritual realities. In our previous episode, Dr. Polkinghorne discussed his contributions to science in the field of particle physics. He explained how after 25 years as a professor and researcher, he took his scientific background into a new vocation as an Anglican priest. In this episode, he will give his insights into human exploration of life and its meaning, the cosmic process, and the afterlife.
According to Dr. Polkinghorne, whether it is solving equations in physics, helping humanity to reach its fullest potential, or working to connect with the divine presence, human curiosity has one outlet: exploration.
And of course, human beings are exploratory creatures. A very deep human desire and need, I think, is to understand the world. I mean, we have a thirst for understanding. That's what powers science and gives a certain kind of understanding of the world. I think it should also power religious exploration to understand the world at the deepest possible level.
Both science and religion share the drive to explore and seek truth. However, the vehicles for this are unique to each type of exploration. Dr. Polkinghorne makes distinctions between the experimentation of science and the experiential nature of religion, but holds to his view that they are in some way related to each other.
He seems to be another of these figures. There are several of them, of course, in first century history, messianic pretenders. Equally, in religion, that we don't exactly have experiment. You can't put the Lord your God to the test, but we do have experience. We have our own religious experience, and also, of course, we have the record of the foundational religious experiences that lie behind the different faith traditions. So there is a motivated belief arising from experience in religion, and there is a commitment to a point of view in science. So in that sense, the two are not completely different from each other. They have a certain cousinly relationship to each other.
Dr. Polkinghorne's recognition of a link between science and religion carried him through the transition from physicist to priest. His quest for truth within science informed his quest for truth in the religious sphere.
When I stopped being a professor of science and became a priest, my life changed in all sorts of ways. But I think the search for reason and for rational belief, motivated belief, continued from one side to the other.
The trust that many place in science is based on a belief that the world is ordered and somehow understandable. The commitment to science is not unlike the commitment to religion, though they each have unique characteristics.
Trust in science in the sense that scientists commit themselves to a belief that the world is intelligible, that they will be able to understand it. It may be difficult to find that understanding, there may be a lot of labour involved, but they believe there is a story to be found and to be told. And we wouldn't do science unless we committed ourselves to the expectation that we would find an intelligible structure beneath it.
Though the distinction between experimental science and experiential religion is made, the different types of beliefs involved in each are nonetheless beliefs and motivations.
Obviously, we transcend the physical world, we put it to the test and experiment, things like that. That gives science a great advantage. We can't put God to the test, we have to encounter God with awe and obedience and worship in a different sort of way. But I see a cousinly relationship between science and religion.
Religion and science can be used to check each other. For example, the scientists who developed the atomic bomb were carried away by their interest and excitement for the complexity of the scientific and technical problems they faced. Later, many deeply regretted their work. A religious or spiritual perspective might have bent their interests and decisions in a different direction.
Most of the people who worked on the atomic bomb at Los Alamos, many of the leaders wrote their memoirs afterwards, and I've read quite a few of those. And the thing that's really striking about it is that while they were all there on their own on that mesa in New Mexico, facing these tremendously interesting, exciting technical and scientific problems, Oppenheimer said the science was very sweet, they were carried away with that. And it was only when they'd seen the test explosion in the New Mexico desert that many of them asked, what have we actually been up to? And then some of them tried to stop the use of the bomb, and of course they were unable to do that. There is a sort of, every calling has its snare, so to speak. There's always a little trap. And science is very exciting, and it's very easy to get carried away with the excitement of it.
This is a stark example of how every endeavor has pitfalls and drawbacks. Science asks the question of how things happen. Dr. Polkinghorne stresses the importance of also asking why things happen. What is the meaning and purpose of what we discover or do? Asking this question balances the excitement of discovery and tempers our scientific exploration.
We've done this, we've done that, come on chaps, let's do the next thing. But the next thing may be something that you maybe can do, but you should not do. And there needs to be a dialogue between the people who are at the spearhead of the advance of science and technology with, if you like, the general ethical public, who say from time to time, wait a minute, the next thing may not be something that should be done. The technological imperative, get carried away with the momentum of it, is a danger, I think.
Dr. Polkinghorne's extensive background in science gives him the ability to interpret universal processes both broadly and as accurately as possible. The question of where do we come from spans both science and religion. The possible answers that each come up with generate conflict in some circles. Our guest approaches this question in a manner that unites both the religious and scientific stories.
So the whole creative process is an unfolding process. God is not a God in a hurry. God chooses to act through natural processes and not through magic, not just snapping the divine fingers in that sort of way. I think that's a very important realization.
Viewing the world and the creative process in this light contributes to an understanding of the theological problem of evil. If God acts through natural processes and allows us to be ourselves, then we will inevitably come up against difficult or destructive circumstances. Natural processes produce new life, but they also can produce malignancy. This does not make God directly responsible as a source for evil.
There's a shadow side to the fruitfulness of the process. That's, I think, mildly helpful in understanding what the strangeness of the world. There is a cost to the fruitful side of creation, and I think we need to take that seriously. Small, 13.7 billion years ago, just an expanding ball of energy, about the simplest thing you could think about. Now it's become very rich and complicated, the home of saints and scientists.
The richness and complexity of life is awe-inspiring. The fact that we have awareness of it adds more intrinsic value to it, at least for humanity. According to Dr. Polkinghorne, human nature is the ground for the entire universe to become aware of itself.
I think that one of the most astonishing things that's happened in the history of the universe that we know about is actually the coming to be of human life and human consciousness here on Earth. Something really new emerged in the world with that, because we are able to be aware of ourselves, we're able to understand the world. In human nature, the universe, so to speak, became aware of itself. That was a new development.
Despite our material insignificance within the vastness of the universe, we can claim uniqueness.
Obviously, on the scale of the universe, we are very tiny creatures, and we inhabit a planet that's just a speck of dust, really, in the great universe. But we are, as Pascal said, we are greater than all the stars, because we know them and ourselves, and they know nothing. So I do think there is a particular value and a particular significance in a human life. Our scientific ability to understand the world reflects part of that. Our religious ability, I think, to encounter the reality of God reflects another unique aspect of human nature. So small as we are, I think we are a very significant part of what's going on in the world.
A brief look at the story of the cosmos reveals extraordinary preparations. First, elementary particles formed with the potential to form atoms. Atoms were formed in the stars with the potential to form carbon-based chains. Meanwhile, the Earth is formed, which is suitable for the growth of carbon-based vegetables. Finally, we see the arrival of conscious, intelligent, physical, and spiritual mankind.
And that extraordinary story in itself might suggest that something's been going on in what's been happening in the world. It's not just been one thing after another. There's some sort of unfolding purpose that's being fulfilled. And so science tells us that story, and I think religion interprets that story and says, yes, there is indeed something going on. There is a purpose behind the universe. It's the purpose of the Creator, and it's not an accident that people have emerged who are aware of God. It is what God's purpose to bring that about.
Does science or religion hold a more comprehensive answer to the question of where are we going? How does humanity's self-awareness fit into these answers? Here, Dr. Polkinghorne will highlight the strengths and complementary aspects of both the scientific story and the religious story of existence.
Complexity characterizes human life. We are not always aware of the layers of understandings and expectations that we project. However, even our unconscious intuitions are an important part of the human experience.
Suppose a child wakes up in the middle of the night, frightened by some dream it's had. Parent goes to comfort the child, and what the parent says to the child is, "It's all right."
How is this parent telling the truth? To say that everything is all right is to make that statement in the face of the reality of tragedy, disease, and death. What gives us the assurance that everything will be all right?
On the face of it, you might think the answer was no, but nevertheless, there's a deep intuition that in the end all will be well. There is a deep human intuition of hope, that though there is death, there is more than death. And I think that that's intuition of the existence of God and the faithfulness of God.
All around us are examples of regeneration or conservation. There are hints in nature about preservation and conservation. Just as seeds contain the essence of trees and our memories preserve the essence of the past, there are greater things preserved in nature or creation. Science tells us there are laws of conservation on an even larger scale.
Science certainly knows that some things don't get lost. They may degrade. Energy, for example, and energy is conserved, but what thermodynamics says is that energy becomes less and less useful. It goes into heat and things like that, which can't be then used to do work and create further forms of order. So in that sense, the universe does run down. Of course, there are bits of the universe that swim against the tide of that, so to speak.
Even with the scientific assurance of levels of conservation, there is also evidence of eventual decay. Our hopes are not fulfilled on a purely physical level, so religious comprehension fulfills our humanity.
But we are going to get caught up in that eventual decay in the end. So I think within what science can say, though there is no conservation of real fulfillment, in the end it is condemned to futility. And only a religious story going beyond that futility, beyond that transience and death, can, I think, really make sense.
While Dr. Polkinghorne sees great value in scientific knowledge, it answers the question of where are we going in a bleak manner that does not offer a fulfilling hope. For this reason, he understands humanity's religious story as a complement to the scientific story.
Every story that science can tell ends eventually in futility, transience, and decay. That's true of human life, obviously, we're all going to die. It's even true of the universe itself. Over very, very long time scales, and not tomorrow, not for billions and billions of years, the universe itself is going to end in futility, most likely by becoming progressively colder and colder, more and more dilute. Carbon-based life, wherever it is in the universe, will eventually prove to be just a transient episode in its history. That's all that science can say. It's the second law of thermodynamics. In the end, chaos always wins out over order. And you might say, well, then what's the eventual point of it? I mean, if it's going to end in that sort of way. But of course, the scientific story is not the only story to tell. There is a religious story, so to speak, a vertical story, to complement the horizontal story of science.
In every religious tradition, there is a God who made promises and fulfilled those promises. In Abrahamic faiths, the prophet Abraham struggled and then eventually received the help that was promised to him. This story is shared by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
And the religious story is that God is faithful, and God will not allow things of value simply to disappear. And I believe that there is, both for human beings individually and for the universe as a whole, a destiny beyond our deaths. Not a story that science can tell, because it depends entirely on the faithfulness of God. But I believe God is faithful, and so I believe that human beings will have a destiny beyond their deaths, and that our destiny will be linked with the destiny of the universe. The whole creation matters to its creator. That's a big, big story, a story of hope and of fulfillment, which is why science poses the question, but of eventual futility. But only religion can provide, I think, the satisfying answer to it.
Where are we? Where do we come from? And where are we going? Those are three fundamental questions of philosophy which have occupied many civilizations throughout history. Though still we are nowhere near reaching a final answer, at least we have become aware of the significance of those questions and the richness and variety of answers. Thank you for watching Matter and Beyond. I'm Laura Wells. Until next time.